News.
Tonight, the Hazelwood mine fire declared safe. Authorities are celebrating a major milestone with the Hazelwood mine fire finally declared safe after 45 days. With the management of the fire now in the hands of GDF Sewers, the focus has shifted to the lessons that we learned from the inquiry.
It's taken 45 days, but the Hazelwood mine fire has finally been declared safe.
There's no fire. What we've got is some hotspots, and those hotspots from time to time may generate a little bit of smoke.
It's a major milestone in what's been a complex 6-week-long battle.
Something that the world's watched and has been something that has challenged us, but we have come through. We said we'd put this fire out, and we've been successful in achieving that.
Authorities insist there's no ongoing risk to the community and infrastructure adjacent to the mine.
There's no heat being detected that has gone subsurface, and that includes under the drain, under the road and back under the southern part of Morwell.
Today, management of the fire was handed back to the mine.
The mine staff will be able to take full control of their mine, and we'll have firefighters on standby at the local stations.
GDF Sewers won't be drawn on whether it could have done anything to prevent the fire or the extent of its liability under the CFA Act.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's first do the inquiry, see the outcomes, recommendations and move then on what needs to be done.
So it's a calculation yet to be done, and obviously it's early days about what the true cost of this fire is, and then they work through a process with the company about what is a fair and reasonable bill.
Today, the state opposition called for the terms of reference of the inquiry to be expanded amid revelations authorities knowingly put the health and safety of firefighters at risk.
I see the terms of reference are broad enough to do what's needed to be done.
That's cold comfort to those who were told it was safe to send in the firefighters.
It was gut-wrenching. When my mates, firefighters and mates, rang me up and asked me why I'd done it, I couldn't give them any other answer except to say I'm sorry.
At its peak, close to 124 million litres of water was used to fight the fire each day, 86,000 litres a minute. 7,000 firefighters worked a total of 20,000 shifts, undergoing 1,000 carbon monoxide tests each day. And while many businesses suffered, the hospitality industry experienced a boom, with 300 accommodation bookings each day in Morwell, Traralgon, Moe and Sale. Brooke Van Newton, Win News.
Meanwhile, a Morwell resident has used a union rally against state government budget cuts to call for a better resourced Latrobe Valley Fire Service. But Fire Services Commissioner Craig Lapsley says there were adequate resources to battle the summer's emergencies.
The union and affected residents argue the strain on CFA resources was highlighted during the summer's fires, in particular at the Hazelwood mine.
We ran out of firefighters. There was not enough firefighters. They had to bring them in from South Australia, New South Wales and Tasmania.
You know, this fire's gone on for a very long time. 40 years ago we had a similar fire that was put out, the surface fire, in 3 days. So you can draw your own conclusions.
The opposition has also weighed in.
We need a government in this state that will actually support our emergency services, and I'd put it to you that that's a Labor government.
The union further claims the government hasn't delivered the extra 342 CFA firefighters promised after Black Saturday. The government's accusing the union of misleading its members, saying the CFA has already recruited more than half that number and is on track to reaching its target as positions become available. It says the current CFA budget is $47 million more than under the previous Labor government. Fire Services Commissioner Craig Lapsley says there's been no question about resources over the summer period.
And I have the responsibility to recommend the government about the number of aircraft we use and operate. We run a fleet of 42 as an example, and it's on some days we're running up to 70 aircraft.
Megan Carbonenko, Win News.
It's the government's response to the Hazelwood mine fire that again came under scrutiny in Parliament today, in particular its handling of the clean-up in Morwell. The local member and new Energy and Resources Minister Russell North was quizzed about a promise to provide high-pressure hoses to residents, which was later withdrawn due to concerns the hoses could dislodge asbestos particles.
Bragging about the program 1 minute, secretly cancelling it the next, and doctoring the official record.
The government says no hoses were given out before the offer was cancelled.
On that very same day, an announcement was made that the high-pressure hoses would be withdrawn with respect to the concerns that were raised.
And 45 days after the Hazelwood fire started, authorities have now officially declared it safe. Frances Bell, ABC News, Melbourne.
Angry firefighters and Morwell residents have taken to the city streets to rally against cutbacks to emergency services. Their protest came as the Hazelwood mine fire was officially declared safe 45 days after it started. David Woywood with more.
Fuelled by funding cuts, hundreds of angry firefighters sparked a city slowdown, marching from Trades Hall to State Parliament.
No ifs, no buts, no fires.
The Emergency Services Minister Kim Wells's courtside visit to the Australian Open, while the Grampians burned in January, added to the theatre as the union claimed 340 extra firefighters promised in 2009 had yet to be delivered.
Now, Mr Mountfine, newsflash, we burn. And be very clearly, we're coming after you.
Morwell residents joined in, claiming they too have been let down by funding cuts as crews battle the toxic Hazelwood mine blaze.
And I'm staggered to find that this government is actually reducing your resources.
Calls continue to mount for a wider inquiry into the deliberately lit fire, but the Premier stood his ground.
The Board of Inquiry certainly, within their terms of reference, has a broad term of reference to be able to address all of these issues.
In Parliament, Morwell's burning issue flared up. New Energy Minister Russell North forced to defend a government high-pressure hose clean-up scheme amid fears they could release asbestos from cement sheet houses.
The high-pressure hoses would be withdrawn from this point in time until further understanding and measures are put in place to deal with the clean-up activities in and around Morwell. You can't get any clearer than that.
No hoses were given out. David Woywood, 10 Eyewitness News.
About 400 firefighters have marched on State Parliament claiming they're being under-resourced by the state government. The firefighters heard the government has failed to deliver the 342 extra full-time CFA staff promised after the 2009 bushfires.
I have not seen an attack on fire services like we are seeing under this Mountfine Wells government ever before.
The Emergency Services Minister, Kim Wells, was ridiculed for his decision to go to the tennis on the night of the recent bushfires.
Victorians who failed to report suspected child abuse to police will now face possible jail under new laws introduced by the state government. But as the Premier moved to safeguard the young, he came under fire from those who protect the community. State political reporter Andrew Lund.
Hundreds of off-duty firefighters made their voices heard on Spring Street.
No ifs, no buts, no fire service cut.
Stepping up their wage campaign with a blunt warning to the Premier.
We'll be coming after you at the election in November.
They've accused the government of cutting investment in Victorian fire services, saying the Hazelwood mine fire stretched the state's resources to breaking point.
We ran out of firefighters during the Morwell campaign, Hazelwood campaign. We had to get firefighters from New South Wales, Tasmania, South Australia.
They've backed calls to expand the terms of reference for the mine fire inquiry.